for joining us today. We are three couples therapists. I'm Hannah Kisting with Cozy Chair Counseling.
I'm Katherine Barton with Uplifting Connect Counseling.
And I'm Andrew Frager with Blue House Therapy and St. Louis Family Counseling. Hi,
Multifaceted.
guys. Good to see you.
Hi. So I get a lot of questions about how to find a really good couples therapist. So I'm full a lot. You guys are pretty full too. And it feels horrible when clients reach out and they want to book a session, and I'd love to work with them and help them, but I just can't, right? Because boundaries. And so I think, okay, they're asking me questions about how do I find a good couples therapist, and how do you know it would be a great fit? I would love to hear what sort of advice you guys have about how to find a really great couples therapist.
This is such a good question because I, s- I feel like I've had enough couples that I've seen where they start telling me things about a previous couple therapist that they've had, and I was like, hmm,
Yeah.
not
Mhm,
exactly how I would do it.
mhm.
Um, and I guess, the reality is in our business that um, if you have a therapy degree, if you have a counseling degree, then you technically can see anybody, at least in Missouri and in Massachusetts. Um, but couples is different, I think. I think like having specific training in couples is um, super important. What do you guys think?
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when you're looking, it sounds like what you're saying is when you're looking for a couples therapist, make sure they have some credentials to back that they have specific training. They're not just like, yeah, I can also work with couples.
Yeah, ask them what specific training they've had.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily know about the training, like, well, they say, well, I've done this, this, and this. You can then go do some research on those things
Right.
that they've been studying.
Well,
I
what would
appreciate.
you I was just gonna say, Andrew, if you have a suggestion of what they could even research before.
Yeah, well, I think that, the three of us are a little bit, I don't know, biased or whatever, but I think for very good reason in emotionally focused couples therapy, EFCT or EFT. Um, it's just like, there's also Gottman. He's done a lot. There's Orville Hendricks and the Zamago. Um, but EFT really helps you, and I think we should do a video on just on EFT, but just
Yeah,
really quickly,
great
it
idea.
not only does it um, have you, approach situations differently and become aware of what's going on, but it reprograms your body when you are in these situations with your partner that have been tumultuous or been scary or not feel safe. And that's what I feel is the beauty of EFT, is that our not only is our the way we think and the way we feel, but our body responds differently. That's huge.
Oh, that's a big deal. It's a very, it's very neurolinguistic verbiage, but it's a very bottom up way of processing our experiences where we make that emotion alive in the moment and really feel it versus like a top down, I'm going to coach you and teach you skills and all this stuff. So I love everything you're both saying about making sure that the therapist that you're looking for to help you with this is such an important part of your life, right? When our relationships are feeling really horrible, that affects everything. And so that's why it's so important to find such a great fit for a therapist, someone who knows what the heck they're doing. And I think it's a pet peeve of mine. I know you guys know I feel a little judgy sometimes, and it is a pet peeve of mine to hear people say, "Oh yeah, I do couples too." And then I might ask, "Oh, what have you done? Gottman, EFT, and there's a number of other modalities, like you said before, Andrew." And they're like, "Oh no, I'm trying it out." I'm like, you're trying it out. These are people's lives. Sometimes there's kids, there's pets, there's different money. Like there's a lot of stuff involved when a relationship doesn't work. And so making sure you're finding someone with the qualifications really matters.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like the weight of the responsibility to show up in a way for these couples, because that primary relationship is on the line here.
Oh, yeah, it's huge. I want to check in too about, I know some therapists offer these and some people don't, but I always offer a free 15-minute or 20-minute consultation because I think it's so important to interview a few different therapists. We're paying big money, right? If you're going to see a therapist, a lot of time, money, energy involved and invested in this process. You want to find a really great fit. You don't want to just pick one because it's convenient. You want to find this is important and it's relationship you might have for a year or two or more, right? So making sure that the therapist you're wanting to talk to will talk with you a little bit in advance, maybe offer a free consultation, ask some questions about their training, ask some questions about how they work with clients. And I always encourage people to ask, what do your clients tend to say about you, or what's it like to be your client? I tend to ask that question if I'm interviewing a therapist, right? To see, because you want to know, like, what would it be like for me to be your client? What is your approach with couples? How do you work with us? I want to know what to expect. But what do you guys think about that?
Definitely. I offer a free 15-minute consult. I call it a connection call. But
Okay,
I
that's
do
cute.
typically do it just kind of over the phone. But a lot of times I find people will call just to kind of hear my voice and just kind of feel my vibe, and then a lot of times I don't feel like I get a ton of pointed questions about the work that I do or what theory I subscribe to. But I just kind of offer that myself, and I'll just kind of give my potential clients a rundown of this is what a session will look like with me, or this is the process of how I work with clients. And I do typically talk about EFT and but I feel like that's really helpful. And a lot of times, I think probably 99% of the time, anytime I have a connection call with someone, we work together. So I think it's a great way to get that, relationship started.
Yeah.
Totally.
The relationship that you have with your therapist is what was number one criteria, I think, as far as determining success in therapy, usually, right?
Totally. That
And
connection,
so
yeah.
you want to make sure that you have that good connection. So having that, asking for a free 15-20 minute call, Zoom call, session, whatever, is, yeah, that's like a given.
I want to encourage people too. I don't know where we have a minute left, but I want to encourage people if you are looking for a couples therapist, and you find someone you really like and you email, you reach out, you call, you do whatever you need to do. And if they get back to you saying I'm full, I always recommend asking them for referrals. Because if they've been around the block, if they're going to trainings, if they're connecting with other clinicians in the area, they could hopefully be able to give you a handful of referrals that they trust, that they can send you to, that you can feel good about.
Yep, that's good
For
advice.
sure, for sure.
I think it's important too to, check out their website if they have a website. If you find them on Psychology Today, look at all of that information. But another really big thing that I think about is the idea of neutrality, wanting a couples therapist who will look at both sides, right? Wanting a couples therapist who won't pick sides, because I think that's a lot of the horror stories that I've had of couples that come to me where it's like, our last couple therapists really sided with my partner, or one time they bought my partner a birthday gift, and things like that where it's like, oh, so thinking
Yikes.
about
That's kind of
neutrality.
like that's like a red flag, right?
Definitely a
Yeah,
red
which
flag.
We
should
should,
be a whole other video.
yeah, let's
Totally a
do
whole other
that.
video. Yeah,
Good
yeah, we'll do
idea.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think
Um,
that's an important thing to, ask maybe in that connection call is about the neutrality piece and how they work with that, if that's important to them.
yeah.
I
I
agree.
find it hard for any therapist to say, "No, I'm not neutral." But then
Right.
when you actually get into it, then it might be a different story.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's stuff you can get if you ask, how do you tend to work with clients, or sharing a little bit about your story. This is my partner. This is me. How would you work with us? What can we expect? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to get the information you need to feel like you can make a good informed choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last tips? I know we're about to wrap up. Any last thoughts before we go?
Oh, I just had it. What was it? So, I guess it'll be for on another video.
Yeah, we'll do another video on that, Andrew. Jot it down in a minute when you remember it.
Right. I was just going to say, if you start working with someone and it feels like some things are coming up, or it feels like it's not neutral, or there are things that could potentially be red flags, you can pause and, talk about that. And if that's not the right fit, then you back to the drawing board, right?
Yeah. I usually recommend 3 to 5, like 3 sessions. Gives you a pretty good vibe for whether or not the therapist is going to be a good fit. But yeah, don't keep hanging out and going if you know like, oh, this person is not a good fit for me and my partner. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for your feedback and your information. I hope this has been helpful for everyone out there. We understand how big of a decision it is to find a great couples therapist when you're ready to work on your relationship. So we're here to help. Thanks
Good
for
luck.
joining us. 3 couples therapists.
3 couples therapists.
Bye.